referendum, RUTO allies tell off Raila. And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. There's a dilemma whether or not to call for a plebiscite to implement some of the proposals made by the National Dialogue Committee in their report, which appears to be the next battleground for the president and azimio leader Raila Amolo Odinga. The outcome of such a vote in the president's first term could determine the winner of the 2027 contest, and both camps are aware of this. That particular story has been covered on pages 4 and 5. That's what we're going to talk about this morning. By the way, the president said he's going to reward a majority of you, 50% of your savings out of the Hustler Fund. It celebrated its anniversary yesterday. So there's a lot that we're going to look at this morning as well. Read the particular story on page 3. We also covered this story right here on our website at www.lookuptv.co.ke. On page 6, we're going to read about how Murkomen now orders agency to crack down on illegal PSVs in the country. Read that particular story on page 6. And there is a story here on the back page. You're going to read on how permanent jobs now beckon for 46,000 intern tutors. That story on the back page of the Daily Nation. That's how it is. Let's cross over to the Standard this morning. And this is where they're saying hits and misses of Ruto's pet project. He's talking about the Hustler Fund right here, pages 2 and 3. He's talking about how President William Ruto essentially has raised a message of hope and aspirations. The Hustler saw him clinch the presidency. 1 year after the Hustler Fund was started, President is still hopeful it'll solve their problems. That story covered on pages 2 and 3 of the Standard. And this is what he said here, that the president said the government will reward borrowers with 50% of their savings. So kuna watu watakula kachitu leo. Ndivyo December inaanza. So if you've saved on the Hustler Fund, 50% of your savings will come in your way as a reward. Good. On page 8, there is how more parents now have moved to court over KCPE. You're going to read that particular story, but the High Court essentially ruled itself on this when they said that the 4-month election will continue despite those particular court cases. There's also a story here on pages 6 and 7 on 2 women resolved to live positively on how to get children and fight stigma. You're going to read that story on pages 6 and 7. And there's a paid boom for teachers as they get extra parks. You're going to read that story on page 12. And there's a big win for Sarai that will run Mumias, pages 23, and Kisenga, divisive in death as life. You're going to read that particular story on the PALs. Actually, that is on page 33. And there's a story here on the back page on how Man United all back but can't bite. Ni hivyo bwana. Kelele munapiga lakini kazi hamwezi. It's not me. It's just the Standard who's calling it this morning. That particular story then has been covered on page 33, I guess. No, actually 44 of the Standard this morning. Now let's then introduce the subject that we're going to talk about this morning, just before introduce the guests who are going to join us. Now, if you look at the situation that is currently in the country upon the release of the NATCO report, Raila Amolo Odinga is talking about how the proposals in that particular report are good for Kenyans. That's one side. The other side is that now we have to go to a referendum if indeed majority of those proposals are going to see the light of the day. There's a special feeling in this particular government now that, again, the opposition and the government has to, in somewhat or in some way, work together. If indeed this particular NATCO report is going to see the light of the day in terms of those proposals. Members of Parliament from both sides are speaking. Rigiji is speaking on it as well. Didi Nyoro has weighed on it as well. The president has weighed on it as well. The question that essentially is going to be asked is which way for this particular report. And one of the ways then that we're going to talk about it is we get a youth perspective on it. And in the studio this morning, I'm joined by Jimmy, and I'm going to introduce the next gentleman who's joining us this morning so we can get to talk about this particular story. Jimmy, how are you doing, sir?
Morning. How are you, Simba?
Happy to have you around, man.
Thank you, man.
It's
been a day.
Let's weigh in on this particular situation now in the country.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, the president has already thrown his support around this particular report.
Yes.
Now, I'll tell you that. But then members of parliament from both sides are speaking. The latest man to speak on this particular report is one Rigathi Gachagua. Let's look at it in this entirety as we get story 3 that we ran yesterday right here at Lookuptv ready so that we can actually look at this particular conversation on the NATCO report. Jimmy, I would like to understand. I mean, the president was the proponent of this particular negotiations that we saw at the Bomas of Kenya.
Yes.
He said, I feel like we need to have conversations around issues that are ailing the country. Yes. Immediately after that report came out, Ndini Nyoro was among the first people to speak, said, this report is useless. Kenyans have issues that we need to look into, not issues of creating positions in this government. Yes. Rigiji, yesterday, speaking on this particular report as well, rubbished it and said, well, I do not understand why the country is getting pushed into an expensive referendum on issues that are not important to a majority of Kenyans. Jimmy, you like to think, I mean, if the president is pronounced himself on it,
yes,
support him. He's the one who started all this.
Yes.
But then we are now back to the Bomas of Kenya negotiations talk,
yes,
about how everything that these guys have come up with now is useless. Why are we talking about this now?
I think we have had, first of all, hi to the viewers, Jimmy Geko. We have had a very funny way of doing things after every election.
Yes.
At some point, even people thought and said, then why do we do elections? Why can't you just go win this thing? Just organize, win it, then go back for dialogue. Because I think it's also a lot of waste of time. Putting in terms of where we are financially as a country,
yes,
the cost of living vis-a-vis the vices that are disturbing some of our youth, and it's in a large number. I think the president was very honest in terms of bringing dialogue, because yes, the Maandamano issue was also not very good. We lost lives, we lost property. And again, we also need, we are one of the countries in East Africa that is looked out by the whole world. So we needed a sense of peace and also looking forward to what was supposed to be, what was supposed to help in ailing the economy.
Yes.
And help in building the economy that was ailing, that is. And basically, some of the issues that are there are very pertinent issues. But the timing may be wrong because of the issues that are also clustering us as we speak. Some of the issues, like the office of the what do you call this? The office of the opposition. It was very because we have had a system of win it all.
Yes.
And once you guys win government, we end up marrying opposition, and now the government now becomes very biased in everything. So Mwananchi or Wanjiko ends up suffering. So some of the issues there are there. They are pertinent. They are good to be good on paper at some point, because I believe most of these things we talk about, we say talk is cheap. We have had these talks for the longest time ever, since Kibaki's time. Since we have always been talking, which is not bad. As a country, it's not bad. The only problem is we cannot always be talking. We need to get systems where we start doing things. So the biggest problem we have as a country,
yes,
I think it is the notion that we must do something because Raila Amolo Odinga has lost.
Yes.
It's not our business. You know, we woke up, we went and did our civic duty as Kenyans, we voted.
Yes.
So we should get over that stuff. You in government and
yes,
the rest, handle that stuff. We don't want to don't bring it down to us.
Jimmy, be what it may.
Yes,
be what it may. Because then if Raila Amolo Odinga is the problem, that you got to deal with it, it becomes a Kenyan problem.
Yes.
Be what it may. I mean, the president has already said, I've looked at that particular report. The gentlemen and the ladies who are seated at the Bomas of Kenya have done a tremendous job in terms of ironing out the issues that
yes,
wanted them to iron out in that particular report. I'm going to make sure that I talk to my parliamentarians and make sure that these particular proposals have been implemented.
Yes.
Why then would members of parliament turn around, Jimmy, and say, well, this particular talks are useless, when the party leader is telling you, let's implement
The party leader, like I said, His Excellency the President.
Yes.
We all owe allegiance, us as members of Kenya Kwanza,
Does it?
in and out of government. On the other hand, he has his personal wants, which we at times will tell him, boss, here, we don't think this thing as of now, we are facing the pressure from Wanjiku, we are not ready to first do it now, can you please give us time? Which I'm sure he will. We support where need be and we correct where need be. The president does not have a problem, and I do not see any problem in the dialogue. I actually do not see any problem in trying to iron out some of those issues, because those issues don't turn on, they don't only touch on Kenya Kwanza, they touch on the whole country as a whole. So basically, it is something, it's a plus to all of us as a country. So we do not have a problem, and at some point, we are not even fighting. When you hear Ndindi Nyoro speak, Ndindi Nyoro is speaking from a point of budgets, is speaking from a point of an economist. Mm. So, you know, some of those things, some of the proponents in that may be too costly and may not be practical now.
Does it?
Yes.
Let's look at the situation on the ground now, Jimmy.
Yes.
And I do not know why we're talking so much about this particular issue, but I want you to look at exactly what majority of our Jubilee members of parliament are talking about this morning. There's a story that we covered yesterday, and this is essentially what the story spoke about. The Jubilee party faction, led by Simba Kiage, say they will support the implementation of the National Dialogue report in parliament. Now, the party has applauded the committee, saying that it has addressed critical issues affecting the country and championing the use of dialogue as a means to resolve national differences, as Mervyn Getembe reports this morning. Let's take a look at that particular story. Once we come back then, we'll be asking ourselves, this split now that is even within Jubilee, that is domiciled within the UDA, within the Kenya Kwanza government now, what we seeing it? Let's take a look at that story. Once we come back, talk about it.
Na sisi tunashukuru kama Waturkana kwa sababu sisi ni wale tumeachwa nyuma kimaendeleo. Na kulingana vile ripoti imetokezea ni kwamba nafikiri kwa wakati huu hata sisi
A faction of the Jubilee Party held by Simba Kiage, Jubilee Coalition, has applauded the National Dialogue Committee led by the leader of the majority of the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, and Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka for the instilled effort, saying the committee has addressed critical issues affecting the country and championing the use of dialogue as a means to resolve national differences.
Well, what I would say is that there's no report that will have 100%, but we have started well. These are good strides, and I would say our prayer as Jubilee Party was first we have a national dialogue. We are happy that even within the national dialogue there were the 5 issues that were raised, but there are issues that also Kenyans brought. There are issues about judiciary. There are issues that we did not address even here now. Issues of inclusivity. There are many issues that have come out of this national dialogue. And I think this is the best way forward. And we are happy that even Azimio did not call for demonstrations. They have called for further consultation. We are very happy. And so for us, when people are not on the streets, our people who are working will be able to go to work. Our people who are in business will be able to do business peacefully. And so that is our main concern. We want Kenya to be peaceful. Things are not good. But once people are given an environment that they can be able to work, somebody can go to work and come back home safely. There is nobody who is telling you to close your shop or vandalism. We are very happy with that. And so we say this is a one step, and we are trusting that this process will even be bigger and better in the future.
The party has refuted claims and agenda of some leaders that there are divisions incurred in the party, saying that the party is still intact, denouncing unpatriotic actions, especially from individuals who sought to associate themselves from the party. According to Sabina, Jubilee was not involved in the dialogue due to the internal issues, but promised to be fully engaged in the next dialogue.
In the onset, I want to say that we, as the nominated or the elected members of parliament from Jubilee Party, have the full mandate to address our issues. Denounce unpatriotic actions, these unpatriotic actions, especially from individuals who sought to associate themselves with the Jubilee Party. Such disruptive agendas have no place in our vision for a united Kenya. And as a Jubilee parliamentary party,
Sabina now says Jubilee has distanced itself from the negative pertinent matters affecting the country, especially those touching on governance, adding that they will support the implementation of the report in Parliament and other forums, encouraging Kenyans to support all efforts towards a more peaceful Kenya.
While acknowledging the gains made in the report, we recognize that further work remains. pertinent matters pertaining to the economy, more so touching on the governance and state capture that entrenched deep-rooted corruption and regrettable events at Bomas of Kenya on the 15th of August 2022, where there was a deliberate attempt to usurp the will of the people on the choice of the president, demand continued attention so that we do not have a repeat of this. As Jubilee parliamentarians, we distance ourselves from the forces and affirm that their efforts will fail miserably since they don't mean well for Kenyans.
Mivin Getembe, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
That's it. Because if you listen to that particular submission there by Sabina Kiage, she's saying, well, we as a Jubilee party support these proposals that have been highlighted by the NATCO report.
Yes.
Jimmy, just before I cross over to Edwin Kigoli, but they was joining us online then via Skype. I mean, look at that situation right there. If Sabina Kiage is supporting this particular report,
Yes.
why this split that is now within the Kenya Kwanza government? Because we know where she leans toward.
I think also it is pertinent to remember that Kenya Kwanza government was formed under a lot of hostility from the previous government or from the same people,
Yes.
bringing the same dialogue. So there's a sense of ingenuity, there's a sense of fear of
Yes.
the unknown.
Yes.
So basically what we are dealing with is the people who have been through the brunt. The deputy president was through the brunt. In fact, people like Dindi Nyoro would never have come to the light if it was the systems that were supposed to be used by the then government. He actually once asked the president, former president Uhuru Kenyatta, to support on some issue, and Uhuru blasted him, which was so unfair.
Yeah.
Uhuru even tried going to arrest him with, I think, there were 90 police officers, and the young men and women from Murang'a fought off that whole thing. So basically, there's a lot of ingenuity in terms of what people are perceiving. We are seeing some people were so hit down, including our president. He saw Madarao of the highest cadre. Have not seen any, even in the history.
That's it.
That he was shown even when they were trying to launch the what was that thing?
Was it the Bombers of Kenya draft?
Not the draft. It was that thing they brought. They used a lot of money.
Is that BBI?
BBI.
Yeah,
thing.
I do remember during
that
that period.
BBI thing. They wasted a lot of Kenyans' money. With the money was not budgeted for.
Yes.
Money that was not either entrenched anywhere, even in parliament.
Yes. Is that, Jimmy, the question that I want you to highlight
Yes.
is that even did some members within the UDA party
Yes.
are supporting this and some members are opposing it. That's not the president that essentially the president
Yes.
would want as we go to the National House with this particular document, because it would want a homogeneous support.
Yeah, basically, I also, at some point, am of the idea that we do not just say yes blindly. And I'm very happy, actually, when you see people from Kenya Kwanza also saying, hey, no, wait a minute. Can we first do this instead of doing this? So we will also have our own small dialogue,
Yes.
so that from there,
Yes.
we can go to the House in one front.
That's
I think they'll probably get a parliamentary group.
Yes.
And they will iron out some of those issues. The president will give his take, the MPs will give their take. So basically, that is what democracy is all about. We are not in a one-man show kind of scenario.
I will come back to you on that particular question, because
Yes.
we do know the feelings
Yes.
of majority of leaders within the UDA party.
Yes.
In fact, at this time that we're speaking, even the UDA party election that was supposed to happen this December
Yes.
have essentially been taken to April, and these are some of the issues
Yes.
that were getting highlighted in that
And the cost
particular
of
area,
living.
and the cost of living and all
There's
that.
so much right now.
I'll be
There's so
coming
much
back
on the table.
I'll be coming back to you on that.
Yes.
Let me cross over then to Mr. Kigoli. Mr. Kigoli, how are you doing, sir? Happy to have you around. As we get his feedback in the studio this morning, hopefully our audience then can get you. Mr. Kigoli, there's a situation that we're looking at now as regards this particular report. The president and the opposition leader are both pushing for a referendum. And there's a question that I asked. I mean, Raila Amolo Odinga and President Dr. William Ruto pushing for the same thing. Is this unprecedented in some sorts, Mr. Kigoli?
look at how I came in a simulation. Then the conditions.
All right, Mr. Kigole, let's just touch on your audio issues as we can get you, but you're breaking up this morning. Let's just handle it shortly. We'll be coming back to you on this particular question. Jimmy, let me continue with you as we wait to sort out those audio issues with Kigole.
Yes.
If indeed the president is saying that these are good proposals,
Yes.
and the opposition leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, is saying that we got to go to a referendum, Jimmy, whether we like it or not, if indeed it gets there, these two gentlemen are going to go to the road to try and convince Kenyans as to why they should go to a referendum and vote yes for it, Jimmy. Look at that scenario. We didn't see it come.
We didn't see it come, and it is also playing out as a replica of 2002 election.
Yes.
Where immediately after we did our main election, we went through a referendum that divided this country 3 times more than it ever was divided.
Yes.
After very humongous landslide rally win in an election.
Yes.
For the first time, that is when Kenyans ever voted as Kenyans. That was the first time Kenyans voted for change. And it was a national dialogue. The vote was a national voice. It then led to the 2007 bloodshed across the country because issues came up. There was the no, but basically there was a political tempo all the way from 2005 that orchestrated all the way to 2007 and blew up. So I still do not understand why we need a referendum at this point in time. But again, we were looking at BBI, and we were also looking at the same referendum. The only problem is, I do not understand why the 2010, they want to actually dilapidate the 2010 constitution, which is still young in my thought, in my school of thought.
Yes.
It's 14 years old, or more than, it's 2010, 13 years old. So I still do not understand. Yes, it's a process that grows. But the more we indulge in making this constitution, the more we indulge in all the wrong things. Because at no point will this constitution ever be perfect. None is perfect in the whole world. So basically, I think we need now to look at the ills of Wanjiku. Because Wanjiku is suffering because of too many sideshows. We need to get straight to what Kenyans are suffering from.
And that's what I wanted to come to next. Just before that,
yes,
if you look at the scenario that we're going to face now, even if it is a referendum, is that RUTO and Raila are going to speak with the same voice because they have to go and champion for the yes vote.
Yes.
Where is the split going to come from, Jimmy?
The split will come from Wanjiku because to the whole country, Raila, once he gets anywhere near government,
yes,
or is singing the same song with government, he ditches Wanjiku.
Does that not also paint the president then also in the wrong picture, that now you're working with the opposition to push for a referendum in the country? Would that make the split?
The split, that is basically where everything that has not been ironed out that is where now people will be able to actually free themselves and talk in a way that may never be seen before. Because now that will also amount to a very good strategic position in terms of opposition.
Yes.
To lay down a 2027 battle with government. All said and done, if this report is about Kenyans, I would not fault the president for wanting to highlight it or bring it through a referendum. But I would also want, as we go through that position of government, we would also want to understand,
yes,
is it a must? And why now? Yes, 90% of what we told our Kenyans was who were doing the elections was we told them we are coming into this government to help Mama Mboga and the hustlers and everything. And we are not coming to create positions. But two very major positions have been put. For Raila, it's a do or die. If he does not get that office now, he may not be able to be on the ballot, and probably he'll be on the ballot because he's a perennial candidate in the presidency for the longest time ever. But I don't think it would be fair to Kenyans. We need to sort out our issues as a country. As much as we need to look at some of those things, most of what is happening there can wait, even though the referendum was to happen. I'd rather it happens 1 year before elections.
No, sir.
Maybe at that point, yes, so people will be tired, it will be election mode, so now you go do it then. But for now, can we focus? Can we let Wanjiku have an easy time in terms of cost of living? The youth have an issue in everywhere. We are not represented in the right way. We have a problem. We are shouting. We really miss His Excellency the President as the deputy at Karen, because that was like I said, and I've said it again, was the theater of dreams. Now it has become Nyumba, I was there, and it is really, really irritating, because we as Kenya Kwanza, the youth, are now thrown out with the bait. But we are looking at young leaders like His Excellency, or rather Honorable Dini Nyoro,
Yes.
who is playing a very vital role
Yes.
in government. If you have seen him, if you have looked at his way of doing stuff, he's been all over the country. And his reception, he is non-partisan.
No, sir.
At no point will you ever find Dindi fighting with Honorable Babu Wino. That is a comrade I also respect. So when we see that kind of synergy, we are seeing a lot of hope, but we have a problem. As a country, we have a problem. Youth representative. If we are still talking about Raila Amolo Odinga, and I am 40, and we have a battalion of more than 3, 4, 5, 10 million who are in that youth age bracket, we have a problem as a country.
Yes, sir.
So basically, most of these things that they want to drive, they will have to drive them through the youth again, forgetting they came to government and forgot about the same youth. So I'm not seeing, and I did not see anything about the youth there.
Yes.
I did not see anything pertinent about any job opportunities. I did not see anything about the drug addiction in this country. I did not see anything, I have not seen anybody talk about the pertinent issues about our girl child and our boy child. In terms of growth, in terms of fertility, in terms of the problems they are facing right now as a country, the HIV prevalence rate, the drug abuse prevalence rate, I have not seen all of that being discussed anyway. So I still don't think this thing, I think it's a lot of hogwash, because we'll get an office there just for the ODM guys, rather azimio guys, to go there. You see the crazy people, some crazy people will go there and get office and talk all they want, which is okay. It is we are democracy, but again, we have a country to run. We have people to give services to.
Let's look at this particular split. And I was talking to a couple of youth yesterday. They said, well, we don't feel represented.
Yes, 100%.
And somebody somewhere kind of knows that we're not represented in this particular issue. And so once it comes to the people, would you like to think that the president knows very well that any referendum that will come now essentially is going to be a failure in front of the face of Kenyans? So
100%.
Let it play. Let's go to the referendum. Kenyans are going to vote no heavily, despite the position that I take, or despite the position that Raila Amolo Odinga takes. Then he'll turn around and say, well, you see, you guys went into talks. Kenyans have said no to these proposals. We have no way then out of this other than to declare all it is, because we're trying to do unconstitutional, just like the Kenyans, have said. Is that what the president is pushing for, Jimmy? Because he has to work with Raila Amolo Odinga now.
Yeah, it's a point. Like I said, it's a do or die for Raila Amolo Odinga, but it's not a do or die for the president, because he has so much time in terms of the 3 years, 8 months that are beckoning for him to probably change, or we'll see a difference in this, and it will also determine a lot in terms of our voices and our choices also come 2027. I do not see a scenario where government wants to lose.
Yes.
Because now that is also a vote of no confidence to the government in terms of if we cannot be able to convince our people, if Raila Amolo Odinga, that would be the biggest voice we would ever have heard from Wanjiku, telling them, can you please get this nonsense off our table? Can you first sort our issues? Can we become number one for once? You understand? So that basically would also be very negative, and it would be pro-government in terms of government will have time to mend on issues and see where to get,
Yes, sir.
Raila also will also have to know how to play this run of politics, because both ends will have lost. But pushing this thing down people's throats now, not timely, wrong timing, it will probably have a very big no. But in government, we have never seen government lose, have we? Did we? We actually, I think, no. Kibaki also backed the constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, His Excellency the President was the one who had the no vote by then. So it is not a litmus test, because they know the truth. The practicability of what is happening,
Yes.
is there.
That's there.
Yes.
I want to take you back to what is even happening within the UDA party now.
Yes.
The deputy president has already spoken about this. And Jimmy, when we say that he's spoken about it, it's essentially rubbished that report. And he's saying, I do not see why we have to take Kenyans to a very expensive referendum exercise when they're essentially going to say no. That we, at this particular point, do not need these proposals that are in this report. Jimmy, what stage are we setting? If the DP knows very well that, well, Kenyans are going to say no at this particular point, going by even what is going on within the UDA party, where even the president knows very well that once he tables this in the National House, then, I mean, some members of parliament have already said, well, this is useless in the face of the president. And they're telling him, oh, we don't understand what it is that you're doing with this particular report.
Like we said,
Yes.
Like we said, that is some. For me, and you telling me the deputy president has refused, has the deputy president been able to even move across this country and even bring a sense of hope to even the hustlers that voted him? No. His utterances, I actually think is a very big problem. That's why I have a problem with that current that is there. There's a very big problem with whoever writes his speeches, or rather whoever his advisory team. Because like the other day, he said the people who have died are people who wanted to go through to the, for heaven's sake, those people came from
themselves to the flats.
Yes, you had took themselves to the flat. Who would want to go die unless would you drive a bus of 40 people? You see some of these. There's a day he was in Kenyatta University for graduation. Told you guys hata mkisoma sijui hiyo kazi iko sisi hatuna kazi. We either need honest people who understand systems of government, people who understand Wanjiku. I think the power blues for His Excellency the Deputy President should be done by now. And he should sober up, man up and do what he's supposed to. Because that's why I said, the President is carrying too much baggage because of having a semi-competent deputy. We need somebody who can look like a father figure in the mountain, like a figure that brought people together. For the President, His Excellency the President, to have brought the kind of synergy you saw from tribal. For the first time, we had a 2002 kind of moment, because you cannot say the Rift Valley and Kikuyus are the only ones who voted in terms of bringing His Excellency the President. Every part of this country, and it needs dialogue. It needs somebody it needs a lot of wisdom. So for me, the Deputy President on that one, his school of thought, his basis on whatever he thinks, I'm sure I would even actually rubbish it for now, because he has not been able to play his role. So the rest of the other people, His Excellency the President, the MPs, can talk something.
Yes.
And I'm sure they will get to a consensus when a PG comes. We have a very wrong notion in this country, where His Excellency, or rather the President, in the previous government, it was, can you all do this without question? Now, that's the democracy where I'm liking and I'm loving, which is pro-Wajiko, is now. People have started telling the boss, what's up? Man, we don't think this thing is up to try. And once you do 2, 3, 4, 5 people, the President will listen. He can't just tell you, no, go and do it.
Yes, sir.
People will fight against it. So basically, it is not the time. It is not time to look at another system, another electoral process.
Yes.
I think Kenyans are tired.
That's it.
We're so tired it hurts. I do not want to see any. Those papers, they even look ugly.
Yes.
Yes.
Here's a question that the president is also asking himself, and maybe you'll help us think about how he's going to go around that particular scenario. Guess who's watching? Musalia Mudavadi is watching right now, and is saying, let me see exactly how people react to that, and especially the president, in terms of pushing for the legality of the office that I currently hold. Do you think the president is also under pressure to deliver that, knowing very well that that gentleman right there, the support that the president got in the Western vote, is essentially because he handed those positions to the two gentlemen? There's one who's the speaker now, and there's one who's the prime cabinet secretary.
Yes, I was actually I did a lot of rounds in Western Kenya.
Yeah.
During the election and after, there was a time we did walkthrough with the president. And basically what you're talking about, the king of the West is Papa Aroma. Don't play with that man. My friend, you go to Bungoma and the environs. Kakamega played 50-50, that's why Cleophas lost in the gubernatorial seat. But the synergy, or rather the combination of Musalia and Mudavadi, Musalia and Papa Aroma, the Speaker of the National Assembly, it was beautiful. And I'm telling you, that guy decides what happens in that area. I was there and I can practically tell you. Stayed in Bugomba for like 5 days, and yes, the combination worked, and yes, it delivered. But at what point has it become an emergency for that prime cabinet? There already is an executive order to that. Again, we have another very big bunch of 52 people under the CASs who are not yet captured in government. So I do not see the president prioritizing giving that, making it legal in terms of an office, whereas he also has so much baggage. We actually haven't even handed over the ambassadorial even seats. So we still have a long way to go. I think we're still forming government as much as we're trying to do. So it should not be an emergency now.
Jimmy, you say it's not an emergency, but Musalia Mudavadi is looking at this referendum that we're getting into next. Because Jimmy, at the point that Kenyans vote no, and you can see they speak within the UDA government as well, within the UDA party as well, or the Kenya Kwanza government. There's already a split of guys saying we don't need this, of other guys saying that we need this. Don't you think that the only thing that Musalia Mudavadi now and Moses Wetangula can ask of the president is that, look here, if it comes to that, we want you to tell your party members to speak in one voice. You support it, let them support it as well. Because at a point, Jimmy, that they do not support it, like now, this split essentially goes out to the people as well. It means chances of this not passing are very high. And Musalia Mudavadi, a man who's in that particular office as a token of his support for the president in 2022, would walk out, Jimmy, and that will go back to the president.
I know he can't walk out. You know, initially, like I said, there's already an executive order to that. And he's in office. He's not in office illegally. Is he? He's in office legally.
But that
there's an executive order, and an executive order does not have a time frame, does it?
But that particular executive order now is going to get challenged by this referendum. It's now that they want to entrench it.
Yes, now they want to entrench the whole thing. But as it stands, is there an illegality? No. So basically, he's not supposed to even. That should be the last. That should be the last of the need.
Because Jimmy, Musalia, as we speak,
for Musalia,
there are already guys who are challenging that position.
That's on the challenge. But you know, an executive order, that's a tall order. Whether it's declared illegal or whatever, it's already an office that has a full engagement in this Republic of Kenya. So basically, even banning it and doing all that, the CASs are also part and parcel of Musalia's problem. That is where the majority of other Kenya Kwanza affiliated parties went to for solace, and that is why you see when when the whole lot did not make it. Now Musalia should have a bigger problem than the problem he has in terms of his office, because his office is there to stay. And I'm not seeing any difference in terms of anything that will happen. The only problem would be the office of the official opposition. That is the only position that is bringing jitters in terms of the other side of the divide, feeling like they are not part of the process of this country, and that is why they went into the guerrilla kind of tactics, the maandamano style and everything.
Yes.
So I think basically it is just to make office. So to Wanjiko, it is the last and the least of their worries.
Yes.
So it might not. And for Musalia and Papa Waroma, they are officially in government. So they should be the last people to even try and talk. And actually, it would actually demean even their own position because they have so much. They have a very big crowd.
Yes.
Having been able to do what they did against ODM in Western, it is a tall order. They still have so much. They have promised their people that they have not delivered for them to start fighting for seats.
That's it. But Jimmy, you're introducing a fantastic conversation this morning as well, which is essentially how RUTO has played its politics.
Yes.
And let me just remind you, on this particular issue for CISs, we saw the way it go. Jimmy, let me remind you that the president was steadfast at appointing the CISs.
Yes.
In fact, he moved quite fast and said, well, guys, you've been vetted, please come on board. And there was a function at State House. All of them were told the official process now for formalizing your position has started. You're going to be given offices across the country. And that process was done and dusted, Jimmy.
Yes.
Couple of days later,
A court order.
a court order.
And it stopped the process.
And it stopped the entire process. And guess who has never spoken about it, Jimmy?
Yes.
It is the president. In fact, Jimmy,
You know why?
there's no place.
You know why he has not
yes.
talked about it?
Yes.
I think we also have so much baggage in government.
Was it by design? Was it by design?
Not necessarily by design, but again,
Yes.
the 52 number, whoever had advised,
Yes.
had a bit taken it too far.
That's it.
The country would not have afforded that by then.
But the president knew.
The president knew, but
Yes.
you see, let me tell you, in politics and in some of the systems of government,
Yes.
some things just come out so heavy for you to be able to dispatch.
Yes.
You'll bring more discord
That's it.
and you let other processes run.
Yes.
For them, I would rather he would have done the 22 that His Excellency Uhuru did, and the rest award them ambassadorial positions. Now is when people have understood what government is. We had greenhorns, so many greenhorns for the first time in government.
Yes.
In fact, even in the PSS, that is why the president has so much baggage. It's because he had too many greenhorns in terms of the appointments he did. People who do not understand. We have very few technocrats in the system who understood who are career civil servants. So what is happening now is the blending of non-government systems
Yes.
and the private sector system to kind of work in government, with the bureaucracy in government. It is a tall order. I'm telling you, I've been through one of the ministries, and I'm telling you, you get a career civil servant to understand how a politician works. Those two people live in two different countries because government has bureaucracy. Politicians can bribe their way to do anything, or other politicians have an easy way of getting to do stuff. They do not think like an 8-to-5 gentleman who is a director probably in trade, a director anywhere, who has EACC on his back, who has systems, who has a way of money trickling down either from their PSs, from their accounting CFOs, so it is a whole big notion. Now is when people have understood. Some I think some are even tired as we speak.
So that the best way for the president to let it play out, knowing very well what the outcome is going to be.
Yes.
Same way that he played out that particular move for CISs is to...
I don't think he played it out. What happened?
Jimmy, would you like to say that he didn't know the eventuality of that particular process?
No. Everything in politics, or rather everything that works, has to be tried. Eh?
Yes.
If no noise came out of that, if there were no Akinyoke Mtata on the revenue bills and everything,
yes,
everything would have been game, and probably people would just be screaming and all. That is why we have a democracy. People will come out. We have our court systems, our judicial system that is very robust and that is now opening up the country. But for once, we are seeing a robust kind of judiciary that is not biased, that is not at war with government. So basically, I think I will also appreciate the president, in his knowledge, tried doing the necessary to all those people. And he did what he promised.
Does it?
But did he have control of Wanjiku not going there? He has done a very noble thing, the housing levy. The people who walked in there are not members of parliament who walked into the courts. Somebody walked in there, got a win. Now the president has to backtrack on the housing levy. And so and so forth and so forth in different decisions of government. People disgruntled, people who think it's not worth it, regardless. But now, for him, it is to direct. And he has given these guys jobs. Now for them, it was to go and protect that. They were supposed to go protect it. In fact, I think they're the ones who slept on the job. Because, these cases, we see them. They would have gone talk to the guy who had the issue, mambo panga pale. Siasa ni kujipanga, mambo ni kujipanga. I think all of them just assumed, because you're in government, it's a government project, it must work. It didn't work.
It's got to work, isn't it? But Jimmy, I want you to look at the youth in this particular process now, as we finalize our conversation this morning.
Yes.
As it stands now, the youth are again going to be faced by a referendum, if it goes the way it's going.
And it will not be interesting.
What voice do you want to give the youth this morning when listening to you?
The voice I don't want to give the youth is, please help me in shouting. We don't have a representative. Please help me, particularly. I will speak for a region probably I represent in different cadres, Mount Kenya region, and I also speak on the other youth. The Mount Kenya youth, you guys need to wake up. What we have as a deputy president, what we have there in Karen is a big letdown. We are sorry, it is a letdown, and we are sorry actually to Kenyans. Next time we will ask His Excellency the President, kindly allow us to decide on who. We would rather have our own mini poll in Mount Kenya and put the likes of, if Dindi Nyoro, okay, I have a way of doing. If Dindi Nyoro, he is an economist. He has people skills. Backed by the other leaders.
Yes.
He would have been a perfect deputy. Perfect deputy, and the youth of this country, because Dindi is non-tribal. You have seen him in Kisii. What did you hear Silvana Sosoro say? Silvana Sosoro, this guy, hey, regardless of, and everybody is saying, my future president, I want this guy. There is something, you understand? So as we speak, and as the youth of this country speak, they have to come. We have to forget about our party lines. Okay. Get Dindi Nyoro working with Babu Owino. Those are two good brains. Regardless of, get the likes of Senator Sifuna, work with the people. I have not seen, by the way, in Mount Kenya, I have not seen, we have a guy called Medho. He's good, only that they are mixing up with too much national politics. But if he was there working with Sifuna, we need that synergy. Such that in this country, we can for once say something and our voices will be heard. Failure to that, we will have old folks, I think, for the next 20 years.
Right.
Because even now,
yes,
when you look at the parastatal heads in this country, the appointments, the board chairs, the appointments, how many youth? But we are happy. There's a gentleman called Karondo who was given Athi water. And I'm very happy for some of those people. They really fought. They were in the systems of UDA and campaign stuff. But the majority are not there. That's and again, when he's alone, his voice is very dimmed because he has to listen to what the big boys say. We need the big boys to be young thugs. We have a robust country with so much talent and so much leadership. The only problem we do not have is nurturing. Because as I speak, why I say Karen was a youth hub is because I have not seen a father figure politically like what I saw with His Excellency the President. He used to make sure Karen people had fun. People had fun, and on top of that, people did stuff, and stuff was straight, and things were working. There was no big man syndrome at Karen. In fact, the youth used to tell Bossy, hey, what's up, leo na dungai. Now, my friend, I will go try that thing. My friend, there now. You'll get now Manano from Madeira United. There is not interested.
Yes. Let's punch it like this in 45 seconds, Jimmy.
Yes.
As of today, if the country would be faced with a referendum, which side would the country vote?
A big no. I'm sorry, a big no, because the systems in place, people have so much they were looking forward to through this government, because they own this process. And like forever, it is a process that they woke up. They woke up. It was like the time we did, there was a thing called Kumira Duraku, that one for, by then it was, I think, 2017,
yes.
Yeah, 2017,
yes.
When we were forced by Justice Maraga to go back to. So basically, this process was more emotional to people, having undergone a very rough patch with the previous government in terms of investment, in terms of cost of living, unga, basically everything was not working. And the worst part is, people remember Raila Amolo Odinga kept quiet on that. He did not talk but came now. That is why I'm saying there's a lot of ingenuity. Even when it comes to the referendum, people will vote with that same ingenuity. The beauty about Wanjiku now is, Wanjiku knows. Wanjiku did justice to most of the politicians. Ile mambo waliona. Some, I think, are in some mental hospitals. Others, I think, are bankrupt. Others are sick. Because Wanjiku said, now, you guys, we know you will not help once you're elected. Because, like, for instance, now, what we have members, 200 plus members of parliament. 90% of them are either fighting to follow Raila to some, I don't know where. You guys have a job. Go do the bloody job. At some point you even get angry because now you're wondering, my friend, everybody, the deputy president goes for one meeting here, 110 MPs. My friend, all those fuel gas glass. You go do something with that money in your constituency. I do not know where the notion of, where the notion has come, where that you, after election, now you have to pledge loyalty. Already you did your part in loyalty, you did your part in the campaigns, you have been awarded by forever. When you're called up by the president, yes, go for PGs. But we're having people always there, and as long as they are moving in crowds, they hide a lot. We are doing their jobs now. We wake up here, like for instance, me and you have been discussing a lot. This is their job. I'm supposed to be doing something else somewhere else, because now we are doing their job. We are coming to ask government. You guys are not giving the youth jobs. You guys promise these guys jobs. These border guys, my friend, you bring a referendum right now, things will be thick. They'll ban those cars. Unless you come in those borders and stay with them.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Just want to take Jimmy back online to the time that he joined us right here on the morning drift. And they're saying, well, now the country is not ready for this. How is it going to go? It's just for you to tell us exactly what it is online and Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. Jimmy, always a pleasure to have you around, man.
Thank you, man.
Just what I want to talk to you next week. There are things that we're going to look at how the government has worked this year.
Yes.
I want you on that panel as well.
No
so we
problem,
come and table that
no
conversation.
Problem. Anytime.
Give them a scorecard.
Anything for my youth, anything for this country.
That's it.
And I said again, please, if you talk to Dindi, do you have anybody who can? Please go tell him to wake up.
That's it.
We need him now more than ever in terms of, we need him to sort out some issues.
That's it.
Yes.
Pretty much. Yes. All right, we take a tiny breather. Once we come back, DJ Dan Dana giving you the December edition right here on The Morning Drift. Kikuja, atasema anatuachia kitu wapi. Hiyo ndio the only conversation. Uko wapi, mko wapi, mmeanza wapi December. That's the only thing. By the way, mtu asikuulize kazi ni aje, hapana, uko wapi? Once we come back.
Imefika dile wakati.
Bro, uko wapi?